Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here with my retro review of the Power Rangers Dino Thunder 5-inch figures. I have to emphasize that because this is like my second take, not saying Dino Charge. So yeah, these are the main figures that came out during Dino Thunder's toy wave. You know, we always have the default 5-inch figures, which I kind of figure all the other, or think that all the other figures center around. But anyway, as you can see here, we have the main 5 Rangers, well I guess it's main 3 and others. Red Ranger, Blue Ranger, Yellow Ranger, White Ranger, Black Ranger, and then in the back there the Triassic Ranger, which is the Red Ranger's power-up. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started, I guess. We will start with Connor here, the Red Ranger. As you can see, these figures are pretty dated, as they're like a lot of the old figures. They're in that more muscly style. I feel like we got better over time. We started with Mutants and Zeo and Turbo, and then steroids, and then slimmer down steroids, and now then we went to like the Geki Ranger mold, or the Jungle Fury mold. I can't even talk. And now we're at Action Heroes, which I still think are a lot less muscly. But yeah, they're definitely not the way they look in the show. As you can see, there's a lot of muscles on them. I think that the head sculpt, while the paint job is okay, it doesn't represent the helmet quite as well as some of the later ones do. The white lining here on the helmet is just way too thick. But paint-wise and everything, it gets the job done okay. I always mention in these retro reviews, sometimes I'm missing certain things because of time. I did get these when they came out, but just over time things go missing. So he doesn't have the weapons he usually comes with, which can be the like the blaster and stuff. Like Yellow has the blaster there and the sword, and he doesn't have his main weapon, but he will come with certain things like that. If you can see here, this is actually pressable. He has 2 little sounds on it. I don't know why I did this for 2, because there actually is 2.
Let's go, Rangers.
So you get a little blasty noise.
Let's go, Rangers.
And a voice that sounds nothing like Connor. But so that's kind of neat. Articulation-wise, they're a little bit more limited than we have now. You can move his arm around 360. You have a single elbow joint there. You can move his head side to side.
Let's go, Rangers.
That sounded like I was snapping his neck and he said that. That was creepy. His legs here are probably the best articulated. There's a little bit of a hinge joint here, so you can actually get some in and out movement and stuff like that, and some swiveling and a single knee joint. So you can do some pretty okay leg movements, but the arms are pretty restricted for that. So now I'll do Blue. So here's Blue, which I don't know why, but I just kind of like the way his helmet looks, even though it's not completely accurate to the way the show is. But same thing for the articulation. He's got 2 phrases here.
Dino power.
This sounds nothing like Ethan.
Dino power.
Nothing at all. But there's our Blue Ranger figure. Dino power. It's nothing like him. He's like he's saying Go Power, but with Dino. Alright, and then here we have Kira, who's a slightly different mold and does not have nearly as much muscle, really any, but it definitely looks a lot better than the old Mutant, Zeo, and Turbo figures, and a lot less fake boob job than Time Force. Like Time Force, I believe it was, maybe. Lightspeed Rescue, they were like super obvious. Here the bosoms are a lot more streamlined, which I guess is a triumph here. But even though it's a slightly different mold, articulation is the same, 360 movement, single elbow joint, pretty nice leg joint there. So at least, fortunately, she doesn't have too much hindering her in comparison to some of the other ones there. She does not have a little sound feature. I don't think she had one at all. Like, I don't feel anything in the back or anything like that for her. So I remember, like, with Lost Galaxy, she had, or is she, not Yellow Ranger herself, but the girls for Yellow and Pink had little backpacks, so they could also feature these sounds if they wanted to. But unfortunately, she doesn't have that, and also she doesn't have a skirt, which is kind of annoying, because I believe Dino Thunder Yellow did have a skirt. So yeah, anyway. So here we have the Black Ranger, which is probably my favorite of the bunch show accurate-wise. I mean, fail. He still has, obviously, the same body type, same overly muscular stuff going on. These can actually lift off a little bit. But his helmet, I think, is the most show accurate. It's still not 100%. There's a little bit of dust on him still. I didn't do too good of a job. But in terms of all the helmets, I think this is the closest one. And I always did like his costume. So I think he looks pretty good in that respect, but he's still the same mold and everything. As you can see, I actually have his weapon. brachiostaff, which is all solid gold plastic with some extra dust there just for you. Unfortunately, if you can't tell, this guy's really loose. He looks like he's doing a dance. I don't know. I just got really weird for a second. But this unfortunately happens after time. When I got him, this wasn't like this. So if you're getting these for yourself, depending on, look, it's like kicking action. Depending on when or where you get them, if you get them out of package, there's a chance you won't have to deal with this, but if you get them from eBay, like loose like this, then there's a good chance you might have it like this. Lots of my older PR figures, regardless of the mold, this happens to them, so that's unfortunate. He has a really hard time standing up, which is really annoying, so oftentimes I'll have to have him in a pose where he's kind of leaning backwards, so this might take a minute to... Oh wow, that went fast, right when I said it's going to take a minute. Alright, now here's the White Ranger, which is easily my favorite suit out of all of these. Unfortunately, his figure isn't that good in terms of looks. The helmet sculpt is very odd looking. The White Ranger has a definite, like, unique helmet in terms of how kind of narrow it is, but this, I mean, the paint's fine on it, but it just looks really awkward. There's also some dust on there. Damn you HD cameras. Picking up the dust, I'm such a lazy duster, I'll be like once over it and then I'm like, I'm bored now. But yeah, all the paint on him looks fine. He's got the nice shield here. The articulation's the same other than being slightly hindered by his dust shield here. You got the sword here, which is all white. Same mold, it's just, he's very awkward looking. I forgot to do Black Ranger sounds, which I'll do in a second, but let's go ahead and do his sounds.
Power up!
Those are his sounds. Now he's gonna be the one that can't stand, I feel it. Come on. There we go. Alright, Black Ranger sounds now that I got him standing.
Rangers unite! Rangers unite!
He sounds so urgent about it. Like, settle down, bro. You can't even stand. Bro, he's like drunk. Now he's trying to do a dance. This is just embarrassing for you. Stop. There we go. Okay. Now here we have the Triassic Ranger, which, as you can see, is a power-up of the Red Ranger, and you can really tell that by the fact
T-Rex attack!
that he says T-Rex attack as his main noise. And this guy's okay. His logo seems like really small in the center. There's just something off about it. But yeah, he's pretty alright. He does his Triassic thing. As you can see, he comes with a Shield of Triumph here. It's all one color with some black plastic. And same articulation and all that, but nothing too special. Fortunately, this guy doesn't have any loose joints, which is actually really nice. Alright, but so, with these figures, typically how these retro reviews of the 5-inch figures have been going is, I can recommend these for people that like to collect the older line stuff. A majority of these type of figures I already own from collecting over the years, but they're honestly probably something I personally would hunt down just because the 5-inch figures are always a favorite of mine from the beginning of a line, and so if you are a collector of just wanting the older things from a line and stuff like that, who like to collect older retro things, even though, this, like I said, it feels weird to call Dino Thunder retro. But if you want it for that, I can recommend it. They're neat for that purpose. But if you're looking for a really accurate, great articulated figure, I can't really recommend them. They're really that odd, muscly type. Some of the proportions on them are odd. The sound feature's kind of cool, I guess, but even with that said, your options are pretty limited. The only one of these that I believe, as of this recording, have gotten any sort of update is the Red Ranger in the Action Hero line, which is a lot better of a figure, but none of them really have gotten an update. I think that Japan did a line with the Raptors that might have had some slightly better proportioned figures for some of them, but I can't remember. But anyway, the bottom line is these obviously aren't the greatest figures, especially by some of today's standards, but your options are kind of limited, so I can only really recommend them for people like me that just kind of like the older figures. And just one final point I want to make, because I love bringing this up as much as possible. So many people complain about how over-muscly the Action Hero line is. Look at these guys. I mean, look at the Time Force and Wild Force ones. They're way over muscly, and these guys are toned down a bit, but these are the more over muscly types. The other ones now are more toned. While I do prefer things like the Jungle Fury RPM mold, which look more in line with the show, the Action Hero line is far superior in terms of proportion than some of these older steroid figures. So I just want to point that out, because I feel like people blow it way out of proportion compared to the way it used to be. But anyway, that's my final nitpicking at people for the end. Until next time, make sure to check out the crazy podcast at writersrangersrambles.com. And of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, Dawson Ryder, signing out.